The Dice Tower, episode 616, Go Art and Imports.
The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by Renegade Game Studios. Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, Mandy recaps her Dice Tower Con experience, I talk about some games I imported, and we debate a one and done. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
Hello, Mandy. Welcome back from your beautiful... I had a lot of fun seeing photos from Dice Tower Con that I wasn't at, and seeing your live show.
Much. Before we jump into that, I for sure thought in the title you were going to do a little song with it. Go Art and Imports.
I can't sing. You're my singer. There you go.
Okay, there you go.
Totally. Oh, such a... Did you even watch Power Rangers when you were a kid?
I sure did.
Nice.
But it was kind of after my time, but my brothers are younger than me. So it would be kind of like the Sailor Moon, Power Ranger, like all those things that kind of came around that time. We had that's what we'd watch together. But yes, 100%. I was into the Power Rangers.
Nice. I like the American version where Billy was quite distinctly nowhere near a teenager. It looked like they hired a 35-year-old to play a teenager.
So what is with that? It's like Beverly Hills 90210 Andrea. I'm sorry. That character.
Oh, bless her heart.
Poor thing.
Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't sing, but thank you for having me covered on that.
No problem.
All right, come on, dish. I want to hear all about Dice Tower Con.
So Dice Tower Con is always, conventions for me in general are like a flurry, of events. It's like, oh, wow, it's over. But it was great. A lot of fun people. I got to play 3 games, which is an improvement over the last one. And I taught a lot of Pret-a-Porter, which is coming out. I think it's on Kickstarter now when this airs, so you'll see that, and that's from Portal Games. And some games that I played, Captains of the Gulf. We didn't finish, but we got through most of it, and it was taught by someone attending the con, and it was excellent. I really look forward to playing the rest of that. I attended Universal this year. So last year I did Disney. And this year did Universal with a bunch of really fun people. So some people that some designers and whatnot. And we went to Harry Potter World. So that was really fun. Yay, exciting stuff. So that's like the outside con stuff. But then at the con, we had the show. So there was the Tom Vassell Memorial. We did the whole auction. And that happened a couple times. We did that. They had board game breakfast. I wasn't there for that, but I heard amazing things. The shows did really well, so I'm sorry that people can't see the recording. The sound was a bit of an issue, but at the actual event, the top 5 annoying gamer types or something to that effect was a lot of fun, and we drove Tom crazy wearing our little onesie things, which we were dying of heat in, but we looked very cool. That's really it that I think about it, but overall,
is that
I think everyone had a really good time. I know.
That's it. I am seething in envy. I'm so envious, but I'm glad you had a good time.
It was good. I just needed more time.
That's always the way. Well, I'm going to be a little self-promotional and with apologies to y'all out there. But I wanted to mention that I got a really cool opportunity to do a show with James Hudson from Druid City Games, publisher of things like The Beautiful Grim Forest. But he's also working with Skybound Entertainment and Gamma Ray TV, kind of an arm of that. And he's producing a show called Starting Roll. And
I saw this.
Yeah, and he's got, I think, 5 episodes out right now. His first one was with Rodney from Watch It Played. And he's also got episodes with Ivan Van Norman and Paula Deming out, and they're wonderful. And when James asked me if I wanted to come down and be part of an episode, I was really flattered, but I was like, okay, well, what's this about? And he really got me with the pitch, because it's really a show where James meets up with an individual and they really connect over a single game, and then they talk a lot about what gaming means to them, what board games have done to their lives and why they love them. So it's really more a show about the personal element and side of board games and why they're so wonderful to each person as an individual. And I just thought that that was a unique take on a board game show, and it was a show that really lets the the beauty of board games rise to the top a little bit in a way that it doesn't always, like a typical review show or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with a review show. So I did it. And it was wonderful. The production quality, they are working with professionals. We had a director, we had crew, we had all these set lights, we were mic'd up. It was they had like cameras on rollers and it was very fancy. And I brought down Robo Rally, which some of y'all out there know. Robo Rally is one of the games that actually got me into board gaming. It is one of my all-time favorite games. Some of that is definitely nostalgia and emotional. But it's also, I just really love programming games, and I love that kind of expected chaos, and I love shooting other robots with lasers and things like that.
Yeah, see, we get to the root of the matter there, actually.
Right.
Yes.
So I literally brought my 1995, I think, copy that I had like really crappily painted the minis that came with it, and it's all chipped and stuff. So I brought that down with me, and they filmed it, and they photographed it, and they made it look amazing. I was like, wow, my copy of Robo Rally has never looked this good. But it was a lot of fun, and my message in that one ended up being, and it wasn't scripted, it's just us talking. I've known James for a number of years now, and you know, we get along really well. And it just kind of evolved, it emerged naturally through the conversation. But ultimately, I talk about how no matter what you enjoy, whether it's pop culture or deep, challenging mental puzzles or whatever, there is a board game out there for you. It's the beauty of the breadth and diversity of games that exist right now. And so if y'all are interested in that, even if you don't want to watch the episode I'm in, I understand that completely. But Rodney does a beautiful job. Paula's hilarious. Ivan is so cool, like too cool. It's just so impressive. You should check it out. It's on YouTube. It's Gamma Ray TV. It's called Starting Roll. Check it out. You might really enjoy it. I think if you're listening to a podcast about board games and card games like you are right now, I think it might be something that would really appeal to you. So that's self-promotion over. Da, da, da.
No, it's good. I'm excited to see it. So there's quite a few of the people from Geek and Sundry. So I know there's a few episodes I need to kind of go back and watch because they've just launched. So I'm excited. So everyone, yes, definitely check it out. So many things happening. What I feel like rolling into conventions is a thing. Starting roll, rolling into conventions. Oh
my gosh, that segue is like a brick over the head, Mandy.
Okay, it can't be worse than Tom.
Ouch.
Okay, Tom makes
Ouch, that hit me right upside the head.
Shots fired. So yes, there was a purpose to that whole really bad transition. Gen Con is coming. Yeah, Gen Con is coming. I feel like it's like a winter is coming Game of Thrones situation. But yeah, we're both going.
We are separately, but
separately.
We're going, and I think the worst part about it is that I think you and I are likely just going to be, for the most part, ships passing through the convention hall. Hi, Mandy, waving as you run to some other meeting, or you know what I'm saying?
I actually thought more of like a planes or jets in the sky, like a Top Gun sort of thing. And then like, hey, give us the signal, and then just keep going. Yeah,
right.
Yours was much more calm, but yeah. So I think it's going to be nuts. Like I'm going as a special guest of Renegade, so I'll be running around doing a lot of video stuff.
How very!
I know,
special guest.
But I'll be doing meet and greets at the booth, but mostly doing a lot of video interviewing, that sort of thing for Renegade. So it'll be in a different capacity, but we'll be joining the Dice Tower for one of the main shows. And what about you, Suze? Where are you going to be?
Well, I'm attending to help out Restoration Games. Again, for disclosure, for those of you who are unfamiliar, behind the scenes, I help Restoration Games with like project management and stuff like that. So I do have that relationship there. So I'm going to Gen Con to help them and prep the booth. And I am not doing a bunch of media stuff. I am sweating and demoing and setting up shelves and running around and things like that. But I'll be at Restoration Games booth, and if you want to demo the new again, I have this relationship. I apologize if this is promotional, but there's the new Spider Springs thing. There's the new Unmatched game. I will be there. I will demo. I will teach you. We can face off Bruce Lee against Bigfoot, and it'll be amazing.
I may throw in a teach at Renegade of Power Rangers. We'll see if they allow time for that, because, well, we're going to talk about that in this episode. But all of this Gen Con talk to say, we're going to do a list. Granted, we may not be able to visit all of these booths, but we're going to do a list at some point, or there's going to be a list made of games that we're looking forward to at Gen Con. I've already done my list, actually. This is the first for me.
What?
I know. Usually I'm scrambling. Oh, I got to do my list.
You kept this from me? You didn't tell me that.
Oh, did I not? Oops.
I see how it is. Mm-hmm. I was going to say something nice to you, like, oh, Mandy, you're always a special guest in my heart. But now forget that noise. Making lists without me. How dare you?
That escalated quickly.
Well, but we're not doing the list today, right?
No. Like, it's done, but it's just ready when we have to do it. So before Gen Con, let's just throw it out there like that.
Got it. Okay. Well, maybe we should talk about some games that we've actually been playing and not just about games that we're looking forward to checking out at a convention. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
So, what have you been playing lately?
All right. Games play. I think that's what we're here for. But before we start, I had to jump in because I'm pretty sure, Suzanne, that you have discussed this game on the podcast, Shipshape.
Yes, I reviewed it from my early plays of the yes.
So I played it, and
Yay!
It was very good. I
told you so. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
That was rude. I'm
Yes,
so glad you
did.
enjoyed it, Mandy.
Yeah, you can say you were right. It's fine. So I just wanted to throw it out there. Shipshape. It's not a heavy game at all. It was just a lot of fun, and we played it actually back to back a couple times. You know, the first time we played it, everyone was like, oh, let's play it again. And I played it with 6 players, and we played it, I think it's 6 players. We played with lesser players. I played it at lunchtime. Like, it just overall worked really well with a variety of people. And like I said, that kind of theme with the whole kind of like, not pirates, but, you know, well, I don't know what other word to use for that, but certain people that are on a boat on the sea.
Buccaneers, I guess, yeah.
Sure. It's not my thing, but it was tastefully done, and I enjoyed the game. So, Shipshape, designed by Rob Davio, and I think it's, is that Calliope Games?
Yes, it is.
There we go. So if you haven't checked it out, I just wanted to let you know that I also enjoyed it. All right?
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, it's just, for me, it's just one of those games, and it's kind of like how Eric with Citadels, and you can't just say Citadels, right? Citadels, right? I mean, for me, I don't know what it is, but Shipshape is like Shipshape. Can't say Shipshape quietly. It's just not possible.
I'm gonna be honest. When I first got it, I was like, oh. I mean, I'm like, it's Rob, so I'm guaranteeing it's probably really good. It just, just first glance, I was like, I don't know if this is my kind of game, and I was like, oh, it's so good. So it was a nice surprise.
Excellent. I love that. So enough about Shipshape, because we've already talked about it a ton, right? I'm actually really looking for, I see this game that you've got on the list here, Mandy, is one thematically I passed on, but then you started talking about the mechanisms and you got me interested. So I want to hear more about this.
All right. I am very happy to talk about this one. Or am I? Well, let's find out. So the game I'm going to talk about next is Dark Domains. And this is designed by William Baldwin, Jeff Horger, Carla Horger, and Joseph Rausch. The artist is Jonathan Elliott, and it's published by Laboratory H. Plays in about 120 minutes, 14 plus for the age, and it plays 2 to 5 players. So this is $75 US in US dollars, and that's the price I'm giving you because that's what it is right now. And it will be available at Gen Con. I'm not sure after that, so we'll see. And going forward, any prices that are listed, I do take them from Board Game Bliss in Canada, so an online store, and then Cool Stuff Inc. in the US. So they're not 100% accurate, but it gives you an idea of how much the games cost. So this game specifically, 75 US, and Gen Con is where you're next going to get it, or be able to get it. Dark Domains, it literally is like the title suggests. It's dark, and it's about doing dark things and being evil. I'm like, you had me at evil. Let's look at some more things. Dark Domains, it's a lot happening in this game. When you feel the box super heavy, you open up the box. You set up the board. There are a ton of spaces in the board, and you have, I think it's like 7 or 8 phases in the game, but you need to have spots up. Yeah, so there's different things that resolve, but they're quick, some of them. Some of them are really quick. You have certain cards are going to resolve at a certain time, so that all kind of comes together. But when you pull out the board, you've got, your kind of evil tokens, and those you want lots of those to win the game. You have your player board, which is where you're going to kind of build your area. And you're going to put buildings here. And buildings can be good or evil. They also are going to produce goods for you, which is fine. You know, it's good. But you want it on the evil side because it's even better. It promotes more evil, which are points to win the game. So these are some things you want to take into account. You have other cards that are spell cards. These are going to help you, give you abilities or powers, or give you things in the game to help you acquire more evil. Or better yet, fight adventurers. So the adventurers are the good people in this game. And, well, you want to take them down. They're going to come for you. They're going to come for you, and guess what? You're monsters. Yes, there are monsters that you get to place on your board or in your evil buildings. They don't go in the good buildings, just the evil ones. And adventurers, adventurers want to come for you. So you end up having an opportunity to roll some dice and battle the adventurer. So I'm not going to go through the entire game. It would be a very long podcast if I did, but definitely enough to get a feeling of the game. When you set up the game, we have some monsters in a space that's going to happen. So those are kind of sit out. You can buy them, I guess, so to speak, or acquire them to put on your board. You have a space for buildings. These are also things you want to get on your board and turn them evil so they can generate more evil for you. There's an area to battle adventurers, and they're going to come after certain buildings. These buildings will be denoted by whatever symbols on the adventurer card. And it's like, whoever has the highest numbered building or monster with that symbol, guess what? We're coming for you. These are things you can literally, we're coming for you. So these are things you can prepare for. So in the game, they have the following phases. You have a fortune phase, preparation, minion, resolution, foreman, adventure, production, and end of turn. That's a lot. In these phases, so we're not going to go through each and every one, but to give you the general idea, remember how I talked about some cards, the spells. In order to activate spells, you have elements, which are going to help you activate them. And these are things that you'll be able to acquire in the game on the board. So certain rounds in the game, like in the beginning, you'll be able to use a specific spell, which might be really horrible and do something really bad for everyone else, but works out really nice for you. Stuff like people have to get rid of money. You need money to buy buildings, to get monsters. And some of them are mean, like 7 money at the beginning of a turn. That's ridiculous. Like, how are you supposed to do anything? I know this because it happened to me multiple times. Thanks, Tracy. So yeah, that was a thing. I'm not upset about it at all. And before, no. And before we even start the game, there are these cards that come out. Excuse me, it's been a while since I've played it, but they're cards that kind of set the tone for the game. It's kind of a weird thing. There are 2 cards that are flipped. If they match, potentially, it's not always good. Like it may say, this space is not available, so you can't get resources for the game. Things like that. Or sometimes it's good, where it gives you something. So that's like an event that you kind of resolve at the beginning. Then we start the phases, where, potentially might be playing a spell, or if you have a card that allows to be actioned early, you would do that. Then you do like a preparation phase. So there are games where, I'm trying to think who does this. Pillars of the Earth, maybe? Games where you put out tokens first and then you action them after. So everybody takes turns putting out their people, their workers on certain spaces on the board to get resources, to get additional people to kind of help you, buildings, that sort of thing. And then once that's done, we go to the next phase where you're able to resolve each location in order of number. So each location has a number and you resolve them. So we do that until there's a card in that deck. Remember the event deck that I told you about in the beginning? Once you get to a certain point at the deck, this card will come out. And then, okay, we're triggering end of the game. And that'll, end the game. At the end of the game, the person who has the most evil or evil tokens wins. That's like kind of an overview of it. Each action space in itself is different. I talked about battling a little bit, and there is a space where you can kind of remove a card out of that battle sequence because you're like, I don't want to get hit, but you kind of do want to be attacked by the adventurers because you get evil from doing it. It's good. But if you don't beat them, well, not so good, because then bye-bye monsters, bye-bye buildings. Now you're not generating evil. So it's a balance. You want to fight them, but at the same time, you don't want to lose because then you're worse off than you started with. But it's cool. You get to roll a whole bunch of dice. Like it has that battle element. Love it. If you haven't noticed already what I think about the game, we liked it so much. I was like, oh boy, I'm a little concerned. I don't know about this game. Really liked it. I wasn't crazy about the art. I'll be honest. Some of the art, like the box of the game, to me is not cohesive with the actual game. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's a little generic, blue skies, and then it's called Dark Domains, and I feel that could have been done differently to draw people in. I do find this game plays better with more people. Generally, if I see a box that's like 2 to 5, 2 to 6, that generally indicates to me that it's probably a game that plays better with higher player count. This one's not an exception. They don't make any changes for 2 players. So there's no blocking of spots for 2 players.
Like everything's scale that way. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, I haven't played it with 2. I've played it with 3, 4, and 5, and I much preferred it at the like 4-ish 5-player count. There is a little bit of downtime. So if you have someone that has like major AP, yes, this will kind of pull the game a bit long because it is long to begin with, and that makes it even longer. But higher player counts are better. I just don't find the tension there with 2-player, and it's not, they don't scale it that way. So that's my opinion. I prefer it with a higher player count. I love the part about choosing the spaces and then resolving, because people end up blocking off spaces for you. But then at least you have the opportunity, hey, you know, this didn't work out. Maybe I can get a spell here to figure it out. So when you're resolving, it goes in order. So you can kind of plan a little bit so you can determine what you want to do and have things affect future actions. I like that a lot. The events were interesting, a bit confusing, because like if it matched, then you resolved a certain part of the card. If it didn't, it took some time to figure that out. We got it eventually, but that could have been a bit clearer. The adventurer cards, this was probably the biggest, I don't want to say issue, but the biggest concern for most people when we played the game. And not just me, other people I've heard play it. The adventurers don't wipe. It's like consistently the same ones that are there, unless someone beats them in a battle or something to that effect, or takes an action to do that. They don't, like, it's not like we set up for the next round and they all go away. It doesn't work like that. And I think a lot of people expected that, just to kind of change up the variety of symbols on the cards and things like that. So that was something we thought a bit odd. Maybe we played something wrong. I don't think so, because we read through the book. But that seemed a bit strange. Like there was nothing to wipe them out. There might be cards that affected them, but there was nothing on the game board when you were resetting to like clear them out.
In general, I think that games, when they have a public market, a public open card market like that,
right,
it should be a specific choice by the designers to not have a market clearing or refresh mechanism. It's not always clear to me in some games I've played that it was a conscious decision. And I think there are reasons not to refresh the market, and maybe there are mathematic reasons or something like that aren't transparent as you play. But I find I've played a number of games where we walk away, we're like, oh, we really enjoyed this. We wish there would have been a way to refresh that market.
Right.
So I think just in general, that's probably a general statement I would make is if you have a card market, make sure you have a way to refresh that market with some regularity, or make sure it's a very specific choice not to have it refresh and have a motivating reason for it not to refresh in the game. And maybe there is one in Dark Domains. I haven't played it. I don't know. So,
and like I said, we wanted to make sure we were playing it correctly because we went through it a few times. There are certain spells or things that cause you to change them, switch them, change the leader of the party, but you're not actually wiping the party. I said, well, I guess maybe because you do want to fight, and there is a space that can like guarantee you a win, so to speak, because it gives you evil points. But I guess I'm just very used to games where you can clear something out to get a fresh set, but no, it wasn't an option. So that was the only thing that kind of made people kind of go, a little bit. They would have liked to see that action happen, but I understand what you're saying, and I definitely can kind of get on that train. But overall, really liked it, like, from the start. We played, like, just a few rounds. We're like, ooh, this is good. We like the interactivity. It was a little mean, but not mean like, oh my gosh, I'm crying in my bed, I never want to play games again mean. It was just like, ooh, I can't believe you did that. Burn. That kind of mean. So overall, really like Dark Domains. It seems to be a little hard to get right now. Gen Con's where it's at. It was on Kickstarter, so I think that's probably part of the reason. $75 US. Love it. I quite enjoyed it, and my friends are actually very much looking to play it again.
That sounds actually pretty interesting to me. And one thing I noticed that it didn't click until you started talking about the game. With respect to William Baldwin and Joseph Rouche, I did not know the Horgers were on the design team. Jeff and Carla Horger. One of my favorite games is Thunder Alley, and they were the designers for that. Oh, they are the designers for that. Just seeing the Horger name on this game makes me really want to check it out now, along with all of your praise and commentary.
Well, I meant, like I said, I know you don't have a copy, but I'd be more than happy to lend you mine and figure it all out. I think it's great.
Sounds awesome. Well, from one dark domain to another, if you want to consider an elevator a dark domain,
I think that's worse than my first one. Womp,
yeah,
womp.
Probably. I had the opportunity to buy a bunch of games from Tokyo Game Market, so now y'all are going to start having to hear about them.
Ooh, exciting.
Or get to start having to hear about them. In front of the elevator is a little small box card game designed by Sashi of Sashi and Sashi fame. When I say Sashi and Sashi fame, I'm talking about Wind the Film, I'm talking about Okie Dokie, I'm talking about Let's Make a Bus Route. I'll talk about Sashi later. The art is by Takako Takarai. And honestly, I don't remember what I paid for. It's a small box card game, but you can't get it in the United States or Canada unless you have a specialty store that orders it. So let's just say I probably paid a lot for it. And let's just say, #worth it. In front of the elevator, thematically, is about creating lines to enter an elevator. So you're going to get three little you're going to create a row of three or column of three cards that have an elevator on them. And then you're going to have a hand of cards that's dealt to you. And these cards are grouped in different colors or families. And each color has the same card. So you'll have a mother card, a father card, a grandfather card, a grandmother card, a daughter card, etc. And one interesting thing is that the card backs reflect the family or color, but not what's on the front. But when you're looking at face down cards, you know what family it's part of, which I think is very interesting. What you're trying to do is one at a time, or as you take your turn, you're going to just be playing one card from your hand to one of the elevators. And you're going to create a little line leading up to the elevator. You just put your card in the back of the line. And after you've played the round, you're going to score because each card, elevator card, has a little indicator. The first 3 people in line will score. The first 4 people in line will score on this one. And the first 3 people on this one will score. And depending on where you are in the line, you'll get more points if a member of your family is in that spot. So each player will pick, okay, I'm going to be the yellow family, you're going to be the red family, etc. But you're playing with all the cards mushed together. That's the game. Where the twist comes in is, I don't know if these people are very polite, to be honest, because there's a lot of line cutting in front of the elevator. Because what happens is each family member has a person they can cut in front of.
Okay.
Mothers can always cut in front of fathers. Fathers can always cut in front of grandmothers. I'm not going to talk about the social implications of this line cutting.
I was going to say, what kind of line cutters are these? You're cutting off the grandma? Oh, no.
It's brutal.
Can't do that to Nona.
Brutal. And they're so cute, too. If I play a father card and to a line where there's already a grandma, Dad doesn't go to the back of the line. Dad cuts in front of grandma. And then if I play a daughter card, daughter doesn't go in the back of the line. Daughter cuts in front of the little boy that's in that elevator line.
Okay.
So the cutting mechanism and figuring out where you can optimize. Plus, each elevator will have 2 family members that they're optimized for. So if you get a little girl card to score in the 3rd elevator, you get double points. That kind of thing. All of those tiny twists make this game sing. It becomes very puzzly. You know, it's easy to card count because there's only so many of every card in there, and you can see what's in front of you. It's pretty easy to remember what's not in there, and it makes it pretty darn strategic. There's also a lost child card. Oh, so sad, little lost child. And the lost child card will pull cards of the same color to the back of the line with it. Naughty lost child. And then there's this cafe rule. It's when 3 of the same family member type ends up in a line. So if you have if you play the 3rd little girl in a line, all 3 of those little girls go, you know what? Waiting in line is boring. Let's go to the cafe. And they leave the line and you get to take those cards for 1 point. So they call that the cafe rule. In front of the elevator is quick. It is puzzly. It is nicely strategic. It is a little bit of cutthroat because you are displacing people. So it definitely has player interaction. Let's put it that way. But it is flipping delightful. I just loved it. And it's funny, we were playing it and my friend Josh looked kind of grumpy the first time we played it.
No.
I was like, I was loving the game, but I'm looking at Josh and I'm trying to pull back my enthusiasm because he looked so kind of frowny at times. I'm like, okay, he's not enjoying it. That's okay. And then at the end, we're doing kind of our debrief on the game, and he's praising the game. He's like, that was great. That was amazing.
That's awesome.
And I said, well, wait a minute. But you look so unhappy. What's going on? And he's like, I was trying to find something to not like about the game. I said, what? He goes, what is it with this publisher? Every game they make is great. This is impossible. This game could not be this good. And he was actually flummoxed by the idea that this game was as good as it was because he's played a bunch of other Sashi games with me and liked them all. And he's like, and so he was actually really enjoying it. He was just puzzling. How could this game be so good? And that's why I want to go back to Sashi.
Yeah.
Sashi and Sashi is a publisher you should check out. A few of their games have been imported, like Okie Dokie got picked up, and I hope other ones. There's another one, and it's just escaping my mind right now.
Okay.
They are consistently good or excellent. I have not played a bad Sashi and Sashi game yet. They tend to be charming visually. They tend to be puzzly, thoughtful, simple but deep games. And I just love them. So In Front of the Elevator, a real winner. It scales from 2 to 5 players, so I like that it hits that 5th player count in there as well. If you can find a copy, I don't know if BGG is going to grab some. I know Meeple Source is planning on importing some copies to sell to the North American audience. If you can find them in Europe by a web store like the Happy Game Shop or something like that imports, check it out. In Front of the Elevator, another real winner from Sashi.
Yeah, this is one I've been eyeballing. I know you had mentioned you had it. I'm like, I'm so jealous. So I'm hoping I can contact, Board Game Bliss for us. They're very good about getting imports. So maybe, Bosco, if you're listening, add this to the list.
For sure. And it's because it's such a small card game, I'll throw it in my bag for Gen Con.
Yeah, I would really, if we can, I'd like to play it. I'm looking at it. So while you're talking about it, I pulled it up online here, and the art is so cute. It's like Caillou-esque. Sorry, do you all know who Caillou is? I'm not sure. So it kind of has that cutesy kind of art. And I'm also reading there's a variant, or people are talking about variants in the game. So did you play with the variants?
No, we just played the straight rules.
Okay, but I like the fact that they do have those options, and it's just like a little card game. So that's exciting. Back on track with the script instead of looking at games I'd like to purchase. Oh, that's awesome. All right, so the next game I'm going to talk about is not as, well, I don't know, it's not about line cutting. It's about painting lines.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. So the game I'm going to talk about next is Atelier, the Painter's Studio. This might be kind of a joint effort. I might get Suzanne to jump in on this because we both played it, and I think we might be on the same page. Maybe. We'll find out because we didn't talk about it too much. This is a bit strange. Designer is listed as uncredited in BGG, and there is no artist. So it's listed as published by Alderac Entertainment Group. So I'm not sure if that will change, but that's where we're at right now. 2 to 4 players, plays in about 30 to 45 minutes. And the price is about 34 Canadian, 29 US, to give you an idea of what we're looking at. Atelier, it is definitely on the lighter spectrum of art games. Okay, so I'm starting with that so you have a better preface of the game. There are dice in this game, so that is also something to consider. In the game, you're taking on the role of an artist, and you're managing an atelier or an art studio. And you're basically trying to manage assistants, collecting paint that you need to complete your paintings, and completing these famous works of art, as they say. In the game, obviously taking through a variety of rounds, you have dice that you're actually going to roll, and this is actually going to dictate your actions. And Suzanne, jump in if I'm missing anything from this, because I just played another art game, and I tend to cross over the gameplay. So you roll your dice, and on your kind of board, which is nice, they have it listed, the things that, if you roll a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or a 5, it tells you what you can do. So I don't know off the top of my head, but I think like if you roll like a 4, for example, this might not be 100% accurate, you get to put your little person by a paint color. That's important because it allows you to get majorities in certain areas, which allows you to get paints from those areas, which you need to complete your paintings. That's just an example. If you're not rolling the way you would like, they have these tokens called inspiration tokens. I believe you start with one, but you can acquire them through the game if you decide not to use your dice. And these allow you to, depending on how many you use, to re-roll your dice, potentially complete a painting. So instead of taking a dice action, because it may not come up. So that's the thing. The numbers have to be rolled in order for you to take them, or you can use inspiration tokens to re-roll them to potentially get the number you want, or use the inspiration tokens to just take that specific action, like completing a painting. I believe the game ends the game end is triggered when someone has 3 masterpieces.
Like master paintings.
Yeah, or master paintings.
The paintings that have the little extra icon on them.
Right, exactly. And then once that happens, I think you were allowed another round, or it's like equal number of turns, excuse me. And then you're basically, the winner is the person with the most points. So if you've completed paintings, they're worth a certain amount. You count those up, gives you some points. That's literally the gist of the game and how it works. It is heavily based on dice rolling. Okay, so I'm just going to start off from the beginning. This game was not for me. I'm not saying it is a terrible game or a bad game or that's the case. It just wasn't for me. I think this game, and Suzanne and I briefly talked, I'll let her give her thoughts on this, but as a seasoned gamer, as someone who plays maybe on the heavier side or slightly more complex games, this game did not engage me. A lot of the people I played with found the dice very random because you didn't really have a lot of control. I mean, you had some tokens to re-roll things or potentially, I'm just going to take this action. But then it wasn't challenging. It was just based on dice. Oh, great, I can just change it with tokens. Like, there was no tension for me there. And I'm not saying a game has to be mean or have all of that, but you need that I need that thought process. And that just wasn't there for me. It's just kind of like, here you go, take it. And then I got a little bored. For me, I think the dice was a hindrance in this game. And I think a different mechanic probably should be used for a gamer like me. Someone who maybe is like newer to gaming or just wants something extremely light, they may really like this. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? So, and Suzanne, I don't know. Yep. I want to give you an opportunity to jump in on this a little bit.
I think you're nailing it too. When we played Atelier, after the first round, we were kind of eyeballing each other. But at least for one person, it kind of picked up as we went and improved as you were kind of building a little engine. We felt like the special painter powers, some felt stronger than others because some were situational and some were just kind of always on. So if you had a situational one where you had a painter that could help you if you had more blue or something like that, but you never had any blue, you felt kind of slated on that front. And ultimately, where we landed on this one is it is not for us, but I could see because it does have beautiful, famous paintings in it, and because it is kind of light and simple to pick up on, I could see where this would appeal to families or people who aren't fully into the hobby, quote unquote, because it has an appealing theme and because it feels approachable. And some of these mechanisms that feel common to us are new to them. Right. And you have to keep in mind that a lot of people come into hobby board gaming through mass market games. Games like Sorry and Life. And these games have randomness and they have take that in them.
Right.
And a lot of players are actually kind of used to that. And so I think when you go to Atelier, things like area control will feel, especially area control or area dominance in this painting kind of theme, will feel different as opposed to a Risk or something like that. And manipulating the dice and having dice linked to actions in that way, I think will feel different to people. Right. And it might be a nice way to introduce them to mechanisms in a game with an approachable theme. But for players that are more advanced or who have played a wider variety of games, I for my group, which tends to like medium to heavier games, I just think Atelier was too light for us. And some of that randomness was too hard to mitigate for us to really sink into it.
Yeah. And we play light games, and I know you do too, but it still has to have some kind of element that draws us in or makes us really interested. And just for us, in this case, it just didn't click for us. I also forgot to mention in the game you have, I think it's Patron Cards or something like this. They're like objectives that give you points, like if you meet the conditions or whatever. And, so you have an opportunity to get more of those in the game. I didn't do very well with those at all. I was just like, but
Oh, I didn't as well. I remember.
Yeah, I was like, how am I finding like this easy, but I'm not doing well with these cards? I don't know. That was a thing. So that was a bit of confusion. And I had some issues with the color. The blue and the green, I think it was specifically. Sure. I'm not colorblind, and I actually don't have any challenges with color. I found it really hard to discern those two colors, and it wasn't just me at the table. It was a couple times I'm like, is that green? And I know they had the paint strokes were like a slightly different shape, but I'm telling you, I don't know how many times I had to ask, or in the beginning of the game where I just accumulated all these green paints, come to realize, no, I actually needed blue because I couldn't see it.
Wah, wah.
So something they might want to look at, maybe differentiating those just a little bit. Overall, Atelier was not for me. It might be for you, keeping in mind that it is on the lighter side. Falling into us, we do tend to play the medium heavy games, but still, it wasn't enough for me to jump in and say, hey, let's play this again. So that's Atelier. Let me get the full title here. Atelier, the Painter's Studio.
Well, if you're looking for a light game with real-time mechanisms that I know is your favorite, Vandy,
Yay.
You might want to check out Nine Tiles Panic! 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 Nine Tiles Panic is the newest game from Oink Games. Oink Games is a wonderful publisher out of Japan. They make games like Deep Sea Adventure and A Fake Artist Goes to New York and Insider. They come in these beautiful little small boxes. Their aesthetic is on point. Their branding is tight and consistent. And I find something to love about basically every Oink game that's ever come out. I enjoy playing some more than others. Some are more complex. Some are simpler and sillier. But there's always something charming about an Oink game. So, of course, when a new one comes out, I'm going to buy it. Nine Tiles Panic is actually designed by Jens Merkel and Jean-Claude Pellin. The artist is not credited on this one, which is really sad to me because the art is, as always in these games, charming as heck. Oh. And it plays 2 to 5.
Okay.
Nine Tiles Panic is a game about catching hamburger-loving aliens.
Sorry.
I'm just going to let that sink in for
I need a minute. Okay, we're good.
I'm going to say it again. Nine Tiles Panic is a game about catching burger-loving aliens.
Still funny the second time.
You're welcome. How does that not sell you? Like, how does that at least not interest you in a game? Come on now.
So good.
Nine Tiles Panic is a game that each player will get the same set of tiles in their player color. They're double-sided little square cardboard tiles with, I mean, arguably they look like Karuba tiles or something. They have a path and they have stuff on them. And what you're going to do is you are going to create a 3x3 grid, a 9-card grid using these tiles. And you want to line up the paths. The paths have to all connect. They can't loop back, and they all need to lead off to the edge of the grid when you're done. And then you score them. And this is how that happens. So at the beginning of each round, there is a nice thick stack of goal or scoring cards. I mean, I was impressed with how many of these are. And some are starred and some aren't. The starred ones are more complex to hit, which I also like that element. You're going to flip over 3 cards. You're going to assess them. And then you're going to create this 3x3 grid. The first person to finish will grab the I finished first token and flip over a sand timer. And then everybody else has that minute to complete their grid. Then you score according to those 3 cards. The game ends when you hit a certain point threshold based on the player count. Right. And herein lies the magic, because maybe a tile has a straight path and an alien and a little boy. And maybe this card has a dog and a burger and what is essentially like a Man in Black, the Men in Black movie, the alien hunter agency. Or I guess that wasn't an alien hunting agency. No. I apologize. And all these different scoring cards will say, okay, you will score points for every alien that you catch. Well, an alien is caught when a Man in Black is facing it on a path.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. Or maybe you're going to score when you have as many hamburgers as you do aliens. Or maybe you're going to score when you have dogs adjacent to each other on different tiles. There is a huge variety in scoring tiles on this game. And that is so cool because every round is going to feel like a slightly different puzzle to solve. Plus, these tiles are double-sided. So you're flipping them, you're rotating them, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to follow the path rules. You're trying to optimize, I can't figure this out. And your opponents all have the exact same puzzle in front of them, and they are solving it in a different way. And that is a thing I typically love in games. It's one of the things I enjoy about mini roll and write games, is I love this idea that everybody has the same scenario, but it's up to their imagination and the way that they think to solve it. And then you just see this beautiful diversity in the solution. And that's what Nine Tiles Panic has. For me, I know some people don't like that timed pressure of play. It doesn't bother me, so that's definitely something that doesn't dissuade me from this kind of game. It might dissuade you, but in general, this puzzliness of it, the diversity in those scoring cards and how it really changes up how you prioritize your layout, the graphic design, the charm, the compactness, all of this makes Nine Tiles Panic a huge winner for me, and definitely high up in my Oink Games list now.
I'm looking at it. So, I'm a visual, so I need to sometimes kind of see what you're talking about, especially when you're like, oh, it's so nice. I'm like, is it though? Let me take a look. Oh, it's so cute. I don't know why I instantly thought of the Hamburglar as well when I saw the little, black hamburgers, but it totally doesn't look like that at all. It's just what came to mind. But the pinks and the blues, the art is really cute. And the little, are they aliens? Sorry, what are they? They're little aliens?
They're aliens, yeah. They look a little like ghosts.
Yeah, the Pac-Man kind of, they're not exactly the same, but it kind of reminds me of that. And the colors are great. I mean, this is right up my alley. It's like marshmallows. That doesn't make any sense except to people who know me, but it makes me think of rainbows and marshmallows. I love it. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's 100% on the visual charm for sure.
All right, well, we jump from ghosts into Power Rangers fighting ghosts? Okay, not really. They fight putties, but that's a whole other thing. So Power Rangers, Heroes of the Grid. This is designed by Jonathan Ying, artist. Ooh. I know, some good stuff there.
I do love Jonathan Ying.
And he's so nice. I mean, I meet a lot of designers, not all, but he's lovely. And I had a lot of questions during the game, so let me tell you, on it in like 2.5 seconds. It was great. Artist is Daniel Mora, and this is published by Renegade Games. So it plays 2 to 5 players in about 45 to 60 minutes. We're going to talk about that time shortly. And retails for about $77 Canadian. I received a copy. I think Kickstarter copies are going out now as we speak. So I apologize in advance if you don't have it. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. We're just talking about the basic gameplay. I had played it previously as well in prototype form, so just kind of give that comparison. Power Rangers. I got to start off by saying this is very much a miniatures game.
Oh, great.
I have to say that.
Oh, I think it's great. Okay.
No, it's not a bad thing. It's just some people, I think, are expecting something different. Even me, when I got it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, no, it definitely is following that format. It's not a bad thing, but just so you know what you're getting into and understand that. But no, it's not a bad thing at all. In Power Rangers, it's literally like the show. You know, you're trying to beat up the putties and it's cooperative. So you're trying to make it out alive together. That's, because people start dying. Well, the game ends and you can be overrun by putties, which happened to us more than once. So... And then, you have your big peoples that you have to fight. Oh, what's her name?
Rita?
Yes, Rita, that's it. So, she's in there. So all the people that you've seen from the show are in there. Anyway, there's a certain ranger that I won't play because I drove me nuts on the show. But I digress. Okay. So in Power Rangers, it's, like I said, miniatures type game. It's split up into different phases. The goal of the game is obviously to try and defeat the monsters, the putties, without dying. Because as soon as that happens, well, you're out of luck. The game can end, I'll start off with this in 3 different ways. Before I even get into that, you set up the board and it's like a modular type thing. So you're placing out the different locations, like the school, the hangouts, and I think it's like 4 places and it makes it a circle. So you're placing those out. So it says one of the conditions that the game can end is if all 4 outer locations are panicked at the same time. Power Rangers lose. And you're like, how do they panic? Panic can happen when too many putties are in a location or a monster comes in a location. It can panic the location. That's not good because there's a number that's associated to each kind of area of the board. And if it's over that limit or it's that limit, you've had to move monsters to different areas, it becomes panicked. There are no more energy tokens in the command center. And this is, we need energy tokens to power our cards throughout the game. If there are no more, Rangers lose. If the Rangers are able to defeat the boss in battle and survive, then we win. That is literally how the game works. It's pretty straightforward. This slightly changes with 2 players, but we'll talk about that a bit later. As I talked about, you have that modular board. You're going to have some cards set up for the putties and the monsters, like when they come out, because you have to battle them based on their card strength. And then you got to keep all your evil people, little miniatures aside, because they will come out into the game a bit later. And then you've got some dice that you're going to use for rolling attacking. You have to choose your player. So if you're playing with 2, you actually get 2 decks. You get to choose 2 Rangers.
Oh, okay.
And it's different when you're obviously playing with more, than you each get your own. But you act as kind of like when you do an attack action, you can play from both decks. So that's kind of cool. The end game condition changes slightly because it gives you extra action that you can use in the game. I found 2 players much more difficult. That's a whole other thing. Round structure happens where you deploy. Enemies are deployed to the locations on the board, so that's your putties, monsters, and so forth. And in the action phase, that's when the Power Rangers perform their actions, okay? And in doing so, you may hit a battle. In the deployment phase, that's where you're actually revealing cards from the decks, the decks for the bad guys, and determining where they're going on the board. Like I said before, once an area reaches its limit of how many things can go there, so evil things, it becomes panicked. Remember, you can lose the game if all those locations become panicked. All right, and then we do the same for monsters and so forth. Action phase is where you're actually spending action. So we have these tokens, these little arrow tokens, and that's what we use to say, hey, I'm doing an action. We flip that to say we're doing that action. In a 2-player game, you get 2 extra ones that you can use, but it's for a specific action. So you can move on your turn, and obviously trying to move into an area to kind of defeat all the putties because they're just going to keep accumulating, and that's how you can die and lose. So we want to try and go in and do that. And you can battle. So you have cards that are going to promote that. Some are free. Some you actually have to pay energy tokens to use. But it allows you to roll some dice and like get extra hits, or maybe get extra hits on somebody else's when they're battling with you. Because if they're in the same location, you can battle and gang up on them together. But battling is kind of interesting. The sequence of cards that comes out when they're deployed, it kind of goes, and you kind of have to track this. It's like, depending on the type of monster it is, it may actually attack first. So they have these like ones that are marked as fast. They go to the front of the line. They end up sometimes kind of going ahead, and that's like a pain. But anyway, so it's like an attack from us usually, and then a monster one resolves, and then the Power Ranger, and then a monster one resolves. And you have to do all of the ones that are listed there. If you carry them over, legitimately, you are not doing yourself any favors. Get rid of them. But sometimes they attack you. Like, it's insane. So the battle sequence is great. As your character, you have abilities that you can use once per turn. There are also a way to get... the name is escaping me right now. They have these cards that you can acquire. Let me see if I can remember the name of them. They're like these really big cards. So when you fill the board, every time you kill putties, they go to this board. And when you think it's like when you get 10 of them, you get one of the cards from the board. And these cards give you like a special ability. So those are really, really useful that you can use once per round. They're called Zord cards. That's it. Zord card. And those are really handy. So those are really useful. That's literally it. So you're doing that, action phase, battle, resolving everything. And then from there, once you've done the battle phase, players don't have to go in a certain order, but you want to kind of do it the best way to get them done. Get them killed or whatever it may be, or acquiring more energy. I don't know how else to say that. That's literally what it is. So that is like the crux of the game. Once that's all done, clean it up, and then we repeat this into the next round. So that's the gist of it. There are some changes for 2 players, 3 players. I personally found 2 players difficult. Holy moly. Because there's an action in the game. So I was saying we get that like extra action.
Like harder than more play.
Yeah, I found it more difficult.
With the lower play count, it was actually more
I found that. So what ends up happening is you get, I think, extra energy tokens in the more player game. In 2 players, you get extra action tokens specifically for... I'm trying to remember. There's an action you can take to kind of like regenerate to get cards back. So, and this is actually really important that I missed this. Your card deck is your life. No, it actually literally is your life.
Gotcha.
So, like, if you run out of cards, game over. So there is an action that allows you to restore some cards back into a deck. If you start just like running through and discarding cards, I have no more cards, you're dead. You need cards in order to stay alive, literally. So there is an action that allows you to, I'm sorry, my brain is not remembering what it is right now, but recover. So that allows you to take a certain amount of cards back into your deck. So you're, save your life. So they give you 2 extra of that action with 2 players. You think that would be enough? No. I swear, we played this game back-to-back twice, and it was like, what are we doing wrong? Oh, and then you end up running through cards when monsters attack you, because you have to draw a card from the deck, and there's these little shields on the card, and you need to have more shields in order to defend the attack. Otherwise, you have to keep pulling cards until you do. So it runs your deck. I'm like, oh my goodness. I sound frustrated, but overall, I actually enjoyed the game. I do also think because I'm familiar with the IP and I did like the show and that sort of thing, that kind of like helped us, this ranger does this. Oh, that's so, Billy or whatever. Like we knew the kind of behind the scenes sort of things. I still think if you didn't know all of those things, you would enjoy it. The rule book was a problem. There were certain things that were not clear, especially when we were playing the 2-player game.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I just was like, okay, like we figured it out. But like I said, I actually had to go online. We had to do some research on a few actions because I'm like, this is not super clear. Even the win condition for 2-player, I'm like, is it the same? Is it different? And then the player aid, there is none, but there's like a quick guide on the back. And I'm like, no, this game has a lot. Like I just gave you a kind of overview. There is a lot of things going on in this game, especially when you're doing battle. Holy moly, like deploying the monsters. It's a lot. And especially someone who maybe is not used to playing a miniatures type game, they may find like, oh, that's a lot to remember. Try to go back to the book. If you're playing with a different player counts, it's frustrating. That needs to be fixed because I think that added a lot of time to us playing and we got a little frustrated. And I'm sure the first time we played a few things incorrectly. I definitely think this requires a player aid. It needs to be more specific in the rule book about certain things that happen in the different player counts. It was like just inferred. And it's like, yeah, but that's not really explaining what it is. So it's not the worst rulebook, but these are little things that'll help this play be easier. Now, I played the base game. This is huge. Like when people were telling me their boxes are going to be like tons of expansions, but the base game alone, I think is going to be quite enough for you to play many times before you want to move on to the expansion. I do like the fact that they scale it for the different players. It just needs to be a bit more specific because it is a bit fiddly, especially the decks for the monsters. If you do those wrong, literally, you're making it 10 times harder on yourself. This game does not play in 60 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like
No.
it.
That's why when I saw 45 to 60 minutes, so just so you all know, just so I can give you a time here, my lunch hour is an hour. There is no way that I could play this game during a lunch hour. None.
Yeah, I get that. It doesn't sound like it. And that's okay. I don't necessarily think people, well, it's okay in that I don't think people who are picking up this game to play are kind of going into it with the mindset of, I have a free hour, I can knock this game out. On the other hand, arguably, game duration on the box is an issue in the industry in general. There's a lot of commentary Tom talks about all the time that you can't trust the game duration on the sides of the box. And so I can also see that it is maybe an issue from that side. But from an actual gameplay to expectation point of view, beyond that, it's probably just fine.
Yeah, so, I mean, dedicate yourself for your first play at least a couple of hours. And we were just playing with 2. Keep that in mind when you're playing. I did like that you could blend the 2 decks when playing with 2 players, that you had the ability to use both powers, both cards, because when you have the different rangers, they both have different abilities. So having that combination really worked well. I almost wonder if it would benefit putting like this ranger works better with this ranger sort of thing, because I know when I played with my friend Ashley, she had a lot of attack. Like her attack was strong in her deck. Mine was, it was really good for repeating actions or kind of working off somebody else, but my attack was so-so. It was good us working together, but that means I always had to be in the same area as her in order for us to be effective. I definitely think taking that into consideration when you're doing the decks is important, but I liked the fact that you could use both and kind of resolve both as like one person, quote unquote, when you were playing. So that I liked. So overall, the game, I enjoyed it. I think the rulebook kind of made me a little upset because we missed a few things and I wanted to play it properly. Again, we'll just play it again. But overall, it's a game that I think if you enjoy the IP, I definitely think you'll get that vibe for it. Even if you don't, still fun. It's and that's why in the beginning I said miniatures game, because I really wanted to impart time-wise how long it was going to play. It has a lot going on, so having that in the back of your mind. But mechanically, the game to me made sense. So I thought overall it was really good. So that's Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. I'm going to say coming soon because some people may not have yet received their copies.
Well, I will wrap it up. We've gone a little long in this one, so I'll wrap it up with a quick one.
It's my fault.
You're just a chatty Cathy this morning.
I also picked like super complex games, so sorry.
Thankfully, this last one from me is not super complex. Thankfully, I had a friend attend Origins, and they kindly brought back. So I'm pretty patient when it comes to getting games. I used to be the kind of person that I had to have the games now. Right when they were brand new. I wanted all the hotness. And in some ways, I still like having new games, of course, but I'm a little more patient on it. But when I found out that Pegasus Spiel would have these at Origins, it was the one request I put into my local friend that was going mad to grab for me. And it is the new Undo series from Pegasus Spiel.
Oh!
When I
have these. I haven't played them yet.
Well, so to be clear, I will not spoil anything, because when these were pitched to me, I heard that they were like a cross between an escape room game, like an Exit, and Time Stories, which I love Exit and I love Time Stories. So boom, I'm hooked. I want it, right? What I will say up front is it is time for me, if you've heard that too, I'm going to completely reset your expectations right now so you can thoroughly enjoy the experience. I played Undo Blood in the Gutter. This is designed by Michael Palm and Lucas Zach. The art is by Leah Froelich and Lisa Lenz, and publishers Pegasus Spiel. I think they're going to run $15 to $20 because it's just a small box with a bunch of cards in it. Now, I really do want to reset expectations because I had a certain expectation going into it, and that's not what it ended up being at all. Thankfully, I enjoyed it for what it actually was. But what Undo was, at least the one I have played, it's really more of a choose-your-own-adventure experience to play with other people.
That's how they described it to me, yes.
Okay, perfect. That's just not what I had heard through the grapevine.
Oh, okay.
So I was going in expecting more of an escape room or Time Stories vibe, and that's not what it was at all. It is definitely a choose-your-own-adventure interactive experience. What happens is you get a bunch of cards, and you're going to lay them all out. And each of these cards, you get about a dozen of them, represents a different time period in this story. So this story was about a musician that was murdered, and you're trying to figure that out. That's not a spoiler. That's just the storyline of the game. No spoilers again. So you lay out these cards, and maybe one of the cards is from 30 years ago, and another one is from 6 months after that, and another one is from 3 years after that. And then a card is from 7 hours before the murder, and another card is 1 hour before the murder, and another card is 1 year after the murder. So you lay out all these time cards face down, and then each of them gets a clue card and a stack of solution cards above them. And then all you do, you have 9 days. So you have 12 cards and 9 days
okay.
to get to visit. So you don't get to go to all of them. Part of the game is figuring out which time periods you want to go to. And then you get 4 clue keys. Each time spot you can go to has a clue card, but you can only use 4 of them because you only get 4 keys to those clues. So on a person's turn, you're going to pick a time period to go to, you're going to read the card, and then it's going to give you a choice. Depending on that choice, you're going to get one of the solution cards, and the solution card will give you basically a point value to whether or not you've managed to influence the timeline positively or negatively or not at all. The game ends after you've revealed a specific number of cards, and then you count up your total points, negative, positive, and neutral, and that will determine how well you did in that challenge. That's the thing. It really is a choose your own adventure. Every person gets a turn, you're going around. When you use those clue keys is kind of interesting because you can use it in the day you're on, but you can use them in days you've previously visited. So maybe you skip using a clue because you're not quite sure if it's important. But later in the timeline, you're saying, I really wish we had gotten that clue. You can go back and revisit it, but you can't look forward. That kind of thing. So you're jumping on the timeline. Maybe you want to find out what happened right before this guy was murdered. Let's go there. Oh, well, that's interesting. Well, when did that start? Would that have started when they did this thing, or would that have started when they did that other thing? Well, which one should we go to? There's a little bit of dialogue there as you're working together to figure out what you think was optimal. My particular group, we had a lot of discussion about which ones we wanted to go to, which ones we thought would be more impactful, that kind of thing. And some locations were definitely more impactful than others. Some of them gave you not duplicate information, but they hinted at the same thing you learned previously, so you didn't have to go to that one per se, that kind of thing. We had a lot of fun. It was fun for what it was. We went in with the different expectations, but once we kind of sunk into what it was actually doing, that kind of experience we liked. Now, what we did is we spoiled it for ourselves after we were finished, and we went through, because we just wanted to understand the math and the core mechanism of the game. So we looked through all the solution cards to kind of see which one of these things, had we made a different decision here, could we have really impacted it? So it was interesting to see the spread of the numbers. But by doing that, we kind of ruined it for ourselves because we theoretically could have replayed it. We theoretically could have tried to optimize our score, gone to timelines we hadn't gone before, etc. Some of it we would have had greater knowledge of already, so it wouldn't have been a clean playthrough, but there's no destruction, so it's like an unlock. You can definitely pack it up and hand it to friends, and they can try it too. For a choose your own adventure experience, it was fun. We liked it. There's no art on it. It's all text. There's a fair amount of reading. I will say that thematically, some of the themes are reasonably dark. I saw somebody else online mentioning that they wish that it had a little bit of a content warning because some of it was a little darker than they'd wanted. So it was fine for us. We didn't have any problems with it per se, but just putting that out there if people are wanting to check it out. So if you like choose your own adventure style stories and games, and you like hanging out with your friends and kind of having that experience together, check out the Undo series.
I have all of them. They're sitting downstairs. So my friend Ashley, who I play a lot of games with, she also does some written reviews. She's very good at these types of games. So this is why I'm like, yeah, I want you on my team. So let's play this together. So I'm excited to hear you describe it this way. I'm looking forward to it. And I do like the dark theme, but I understand that's something you have to be very open about so people are not surprised. So looking forward to trying those out very soon.
Alrighty, enough with the new hotness. Let's go and check out some older games.
Terror Below is a game of government experiments gone wild in the Nevada desert. Your heroes will visit locations around the small desert town to find bounties, scavenge for weapons, and try to survive as you distract the worms. Learn how to play in English and en français on the Dice Tower with me. Terror Below will be available August 2019.
Let's discuss those older games that will always have a place in our collections with Shelf Staple.
All right, I'm so excited. Like, Suzanne, we were just chatting before we came back. I was just like, stop it! Save it for the show! Okay, I'm so excited. Okay. So the game that I'm going to talk about today for my Shelf Staple is Valley of the Kings. This is designed by Tom Cleaver. Art is done by Benu Endaru and Matt Piquet. Whoop, whoop, Canadian. Publisher, Alderac Entertainment Group. So AEG. This game retails for about 55 Canadian, 43 US. There was recently the version that I'm going to talk about, because I have the newer one, is the deluxe edition. But this game obviously has existed before. Do you remember the year on this? I'm sorry, I didn't actually pull that up, and I should have.
What?
But
do you not know the point of this segment, Mandy?
I know, but I know it's an older
2014.
game. So let's just... Okay, so it's not super, super old.
Although in the world of board games, 5 years is...
It's old enough,
Right.
right? So we're going to go with that. I kind of like just on the borderline of the year, but I'm sticking to it. In Valley of the Kings, basically the setup of the game, it takes place in Egypt. Okay, so you're looking at... so if any of you have seen The Mummy, all of that knowledge from The Mummy, actually very useful in this game, because, you talk about sarcophages, you're talking about... Like, I even knew a symbol. Do you remember that scene in The Mummy where he's like... The bird symbol. I don't know what that is. I'm like, Amenephis. We had a discussion talking about this, and I'm like, I was so knowledgeable just from The Mummy. Anyway, I digress. In Valley of the King, you are playing Egyptian nobles, and what you're trying to do is you're basically trying to bury. I can't say that word. Bury. Can you say it?
Berry?
Berry. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's like a struggle for me today.
Bury?
So,
I guess you could say bury. Is that a Canadian? Berry? Like we say berry.
Berry?
I'm going to bury you.
Yeah, bury. Yeah, okay. Sounds weird. Okay, but you're trying to bury these nobles in your tomb. So you're trying to entomb them. And that basically equates to cards that you want to entomb. And you want to entomb these cards because you want to create sets. So these cards, you'll have different cards that have different listings. Like some might be an artifact or some might be something else. And they have different colors denoting that they belong to different sets. And you want to have a lot of these cards, different ones within that set, in your tomb. Yeah, missed that rule the first time we played it.
Whoops.
We're like, how come we don't have any points? And we're like, we just kept putting cards with points on them, but they weren't necessarily set. Oh, it was awful. So we had to do a reset after we were like, okay, we figured it out. And then I just forgot to entomb cards every turn. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute because that's really important.
Yep.
So it's a deck builder, if you missed all of that with my nonsense. So you have a deck builder. This is what this is. The version that I have has sleeved cards, so I don't know if that's in the original one. But
no, they're just playing cards in the original.
Oh, they're just playing cards. Okay, so these ones are sleeved. And what you'll see when you do a setup, there's like this pyramid, and this is where you're actually going to be able to acquire or like buy cards from. You have your standard cards in your hand, like every other deck builder that are in your deck, and ones that allow you to discard cards to get something or move things around in the pyramid. And this is important because when you're buying cards in the pyramid, you can only take the ones from the bottom row, but you do have cards that allow you to kind of swap. So if you see one up there, you're like, ooh, that's looking kind of good. And then you can pull them down in the bottom. And it's really cool on the cards. It has like a little scarab value. So you're like your scarabs, and then it tells you how much they're worth. And anyway, so good. I love Egypt. Can you tell? You play through the game. I don't remember what the end condition in this one is. This one is...
Well, the pyramid itself, like the card. And
right.
When the
you run out the pyramid.
Yeah.
And you can't refill or something like that. But then you do go through all of the cards. This game is tough because you want to build up your deck, but you also need to entomb cards. So on a turn, you can play cards for their actions, or you can play cards for their money value and buy cards to, make your deck better. And at the end of that turn, you're able to entomb a card. So taking a card and putting it in your tomb, it's now no longer usable to you, but potentially is working toward that set collection, or some of them actually have victory points on them. Okay, so I actually forgot to entomb every turn, which is vitally important. Why is my deck so thick? I just can't seem to get any points. My friend Ashley I was playing with is like, have you been entombing cards every turn? Oh, goodness, no. I completely forgot to do that. Yeah, if you want points in this game, you need sets in your tomb. It does not count in your hand or deck. Oh, I think I had to restart this game like a few times, but I got there eventually. All that to say, I really like this game a lot. It was like, once you got it, it was like, oh, shoot, I got some really good cards here. Like, do I want to keep it? I need it so I can like do things and manipulate the pyramid to get other cards, but then I need it in my tomb before the game ends or I'm not going to get any points. It was just mind-blowingly good. And I'm not even into deck builders that much, but this was like, what? No. This needs to be on your shelf. I'm a late bloomer to this. So I'm just playing it now, but it's been around for a little while. Suzanne has played it before I have, and
of course.
I think you said you like it.
Yeah, maybe in my top 50 of all time, now that I think about it. I'd have to go back and revisit those older videos, but I've been a huge fan of Valley of the Kings. I have a story from when it first came out, and I was so enamored with it. I was trying to teach it to a lot of people. I was at a convention, and I didn't realize it until it was too late because I was getting so into the game and so wrapped up to the magic of combos and things like that you can make happen in this game. I crushed my opponents that I was teaching the game to. I demolished them. And if there's kind of an unspoken rule about teaching a game is that some people even say you don't win games when you teach. You should be really focused on teaching. That's fine. But I'm pretty confident that an unspoken rule that maybe should be a spoken rule is you don't absolutely decimate your opponents when you're teaching the game to them. And I did this. I just got this magic combo. I thinned my deck a ton, and I was just taking turn after. Yeah, it was bad. And it crushes me because it's such a delightful game, and I don't think they ever wanted to play it again after that. But yes, I am a huge fan of Valley of the Kings, and I'm so glad you like it, Mandy.
I did. But keep in mind, that is a possible thing, like the whole crushing thing, especially like in our case, I got a little crushed. I mean, I did well to come back after I figured out, oh my goodness.
Entombing cards. You get what you get, woman.
To be fair, person I played with was like, honestly, considering you weren't entombing cards until like the last few rounds, she's like, you did really well. So it's a game that I like the fact that I can go back and now rethink how I want to do it, and it changes every time. So this is the game that has good tension. Love it, love it, love it. If you don't have it now, there is the Premier Edition that they've just launched. I think it was on Kickstarter. I don't know if everybody's gotten their copies yet. I got an advanced copy, and it had some expansions that were not in the original version.
Oh, geez. And like I said, that up. I mean, I have all my individual printed and individual expansions, but I think I got to find a copy of that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. So check it out, Valley of the Kings. All right, Suzanne, I just babbled on forever. What is your shelf staple?
I'm only going back a year farther, so...
Okay, so...
and that's okay. Because there are a lot of games from 5 years ago that people who are newer to discovering board games just aren't aware of, or there are so many games coming out, you can't try them all. It's nice to bring them back to the forefront a little bit. The one I want to mention, and I've talked about this game before, I checked, I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast before, so I'm bringing it back now. Longhorn. Longhorn is a 2-player game designed by Bruno Catala. Art is by Vincent Dutray. Hello, yo. And it's actually published by Blue Orange Games.
Huh.
What I like about that, you've got a great designer, you've got beautiful art, and you've got a publisher that prints in mass, so it makes an inexpensive game because Longhorn retails for $20.
Really?
Yes. So it's affordable. It's an affordable little game that's absolutely gorgeous. And because it's a shelf staple, spoiler alert, it's excellent. Basically, you get 9 boards, little boards, that you lay out randomly into a grid, into a square, a 3x3 square. And then you've got little tokens that you put one on each board, and there's some that give you rewards, and there's some that have negative. There's snakebite tokens. So there's some good tokens, some bad tokens. And then you get a passel of little wooden cow meeples. And they're so adorable. So for $20, you're getting these really high-quality boards, really high-quality art, and all these great little cow meeples in 4 different colors. So you shake them up, and you randomly put them on each of the board spaces, and the boards will tell you how many cows you put on them. And then there's a single large wooden token, and it's double-sided to represent each side represents one of the player characters, because again, it's only 2 players. What's going to happen is on your turn, when your face is up on the coin, on the big token, you're going to take all of the cows of one color from that tile. You're going to basically steal them. It's a cow
Steal the
game. You're going to steal the colors of all the cows of one color on that tile. Then the number of those cows is the number of spaces you're going to move that token. So if I take 2 orange cows, I take the token and I move it 2 spaces away and I flip it over to indicate that's where my opponent plays. On that tile, then, the opponent will take all the cows of one color, count them, 3, okay, then moves the token 3 more spaces away, flips it, and you continue on. You keep on going. You can win if you get all 9 of a single cow color, or at the end of the game, when there are no more legal moves to take, you just score your cows. And here is where, besides that movement rule, which is very compelling and very strategic, you can plan multiple moves out. You're saying, okay, if I go here, I have to move here. I'll move 2. If I take this color, I have to move 2. Okay, I could land him there. Oh, nope, he's collecting gray, so I don't want to go there. Okay, so then I should take 3. Oh, it's very strategic in an interesting way. But beyond that movement calculation, the way cows score, and very rarely, I've played Longhorn a ton, y'all. Like, I've played this game so much. I very rarely have seen a game end by somebody getting all 9 of a single color. what you more commonly see is the game ends and then you're counting cows. And this is also something super interesting to me. The cows you have stolen in your herd, you will score points equal to the number of cows of that color left on the board. So if you get all the gray cows, if you get 8 gray cows and there's only 1 left on the board, you're getting 8 points. But if you get 5 orange cows and there are 4 orange cows left on the board, you're getting 20 points.
What?
It is mind-boggling interesting as you're figuring out your movement and you're watching these cows disappear. You're trying to see who has more of each. You're trying to figure out, well, is there any chance that I can leave this cow on the board and my opponent won't take it? That kind of thing. It still plays very quickly, but there's a lot of thought, a lot of strategy, a lot of tactics, all wrapped up into this tiny, inexpensive, gorgeous 2-player game. I love Longhorn. I've played it a ton. If you have not tried it, I highly, highly recommend it. People will compare it to, keep in mind, Katala's behind 5 Tribes, which is a very popular, large strategic game. Longhorn, I think, came out before. I'm not sure if it came out before. You see essence of that with the way you pick up the cattle and the way you move there.
Okay.
But I'll tell you right now, I like Longhorn better than like 5 Tribes. So there you go.
Really?
Longhorn, my shelf staple.
Oh, okay. This is one I've heard you talk about. I've heard other people talk about. I've just never gotten around to playing it. And the price now is kind of, I know, price is a thing for me sometimes. I'm like, oh, it's expensive, trying to get my hands on it. This is something I would just buy. If you're saying it's really good, staple on the shelf. And I've heard a lot of people say it's good.
If you play 2-player games, definitely worth it, 100%.
Okay, good to know.
Alrighty. I'm excited for the next segment because
I'm nervous. I'm so nervous.
Mandy and I disagree. Dun, dun, dun.
All right, one and done. I feel like we haven't done this for a while, but
it's been a while,
but I had a game that, well, I hate saying this, but it kind of fit the bill for me today. Just to be fair, and let's make this clear, this is my one and done. Suzanne and I are discussing it together, but this is not hers. So any words for that, Suzanne?
Yeah, I was surprised to see it on your list because what's the game, Mandy?
All right, so the game is Subtext, and it's designed by Wolfgang Warsch. Art is by Studio Muti, and the publisher is Editions Spielweis and Stronghold. It plays 4 to 8 players in about 20 to 40 minutes.
And Mandy, I was surprised to see this pop up in the show notes, and you and I will have a nice discussion because this is not a one and done for me.
Okay, so here we go. Some polarizing views here. Wasn't for me. Suzanne, not a one and done for her. So you know what? Just to throw it out there, how about you give a very nice description of the game before we get into it?
Oh, wow. How gracious of you.
Oh, yes, you're welcome.
Sure. Subtext is, I guess, a party game. It's Wolfgang Warsch plays in so many game design spaces. I just love that about his brain and where he plays. And Subtext is a bit of Dixit and a bit of Pictionary combined. You definitely want a larger player count for this. You get a deck of cards that have words on them, and everybody gets a little piece of paper. It comes with this tiny little pad of paper, which is
so
one of my complaints about the game, to be honest. It's just this dinky little pad of paper. It's kind of silly, whatever. And you get a board. And what happens is the person who's the lead for the round will look at a card, take the number. Okay, it's going to be number 3 or whatever. Then takes other cards, shuffles them up all together, and then distributes them to the other players. And then everyone draws what they have on that spot. What that means is the person who's in the lead will be drawing, say, a cat. And one other person will be drawing a cat too. But everybody else is drawing whatever is on their card because one other person got the lead's original card in that shuffle. And so then everybody takes a minute to draw what they've got on their sheet, and then you lay them out randomly on these spots on the board. They're lettered or something like that, I believe. And everybody has little voting tokens that matches that. And so all the drawings come out. And then you are you're looking at it. You know who the lead person was. And so you're looking at their drawing, and then you're looking at the other drawings, and you're trying to figure out who else had the lead drawing. Who else had it? The thing is that the person who had it doesn't even know that they had it, kind of thing.
Right.
And so everybody's looking at their voting tokens, and they're picking one letter. Okay, I think Mandy did it. I think Josh did it. I think Melissa did it. Whatever. You flip and reveal, and then you get up that board is a little score track with like your little player token, whatever, counter movers. And then you score based on if you guessed correctly. But as with some other games, it's all about the subtlety. It's all about the interpretation. Because if I just draw a cat, a very obvious cat, and Mandy, you draw a very obvious cat, everybody knows what it is. And everybody except you and I will get points. Or you might get points, but the lead won't get points. So it's one of those games where you want to give, like a Spyfall style game, where you want to give just enough information that somebody gets it, but not everybody gets it, because that's how you maximize your points. So everybody gets turns. I believe it's a set amount of rounds. Everybody gets like 2 chances to be the lead, and then you see whoever has the highest points and they win. And that's all it is. So it's very, very quick. Do you think I described it fairly and accurately, Mandy?
Actually, you did it very well, much better than the rule book, actually. So I think, yeah, I'm sorry. This game did not go over well with anyone in my game group. Anyone.
All right. Fair enough. Talk to me, woman.
All right.
Vent your soul.
I had high hopes. So let me preface this with saying, generally, I'm not one for party games. I will admit to that 100%. However, there are a few on my radar that I actually really enjoy. Anything with drawing and art, I love that, and I usually can jump right into it. This game started off with the rules, and I said, so it's like Dixit, but not Dixit? Like, it just was so convoluted for a party game. Like, it shouldn't have taken that long to, like, figure it out, and it's not even just me. Like, we literally had sitting around the table discussing the rules, and we were literally saying the same thing to each other, but not meeting, like not realizing it. And it was like, okay, I think we're saying the same thing. Why are we having this huge discussion about how this is laid out? Oh my goodness. So the first couple of rounds were like tentative playing because we were like, are we doing this right? Is this the thing? And then at the end of the day, everybody was kind of like, okay, then why wouldn't I just play Dixit? Like, why did we need to convolute that mechanism more or make it more confusing? I get it now. But it was one of those things where after we played it, we're like, yeah, we get it now. This is like partway through the game. And then it was like, okay, I'm good. Don't need to play this again. It just did not leave a good taste in anyone's mouth. People just, I think the rules, I think that's what really started it. The way the rules were explained and then figuring it out. And then people were like, why didn't you just say that? Like, this is basically Dixit with like extra bits. That's literally how it came across. For me, it just... I'm okay not playing it again based on that. I'm not saying it's a bad game. It just did not go over well with our group at all.
Well, you're wrong. Let's fight.
Ding, ding, ding.
No, I mean, I can understand. It's interesting that the whole group didn't turn on to it. So the way that we played it at first was we played a straight round. And the first round, everybody's drawings were very obvious, and we saw it work.
Right.
And then it clicked, and then we all said, oh, that's how this game works.
Right.
And then we got into it. And yes, it's kind of arguably like Dixit with extra bits, but the extra bits is what makes it shine. It's in the interpretation. It's in how do players think? How can you interpret this thing different ways? For example, Just One is a party style game. And a lot of times you're looking at the thing that you're trying to clue in, and you're interpreting it in different ways. So if the word is purple, maybe somebody writes rain, maybe somebody writes prince, maybe somebody writes royal, maybe somebody writes grapes. There's a million different ways, maybe not a million. There's lots of different ways you can approach the word purple.
Sure.
And which way are other people thinking? Because you don't want those numbers nullified, right? That's how Just One. I feel like there's some of that essence here in subtext. Okay, so the word is headlights. Well, what do I draw for headlights? How do I transmit headlights without just drawing a car with lights on it, or 2 circles, or whatever? Maybe somebody draws a deer with big wide eyes, or a deer-like object, because let's face it, none of us were artists in this group. No offense, friends, if you're listening, love you, mean it. And I think that is fun and interesting. We had ones where it was like a gnome or something, and he just drew a little bit of a circle and a pointy hat, a triangle off the bottom of the paper. So if you don't know that it's a gnome, you're looking at this and you're going, is it a spotlight? Is it a road? Because it could be a road in perspective. You had no idea if you didn't know. And that was an interesting thing. That was compelling as you're trying to figure out the interpersonal puzzle interpretation plus you throw in the inconsistency of drawing quality, we were laughing, we were having fun, we were impressed with each other when somebody came up with a unique way to approach it.
Right.
The word from it felt quick because you had those little rounds. The pieces of paper, which I mocked earlier, they
were small.
the way the board is spaced out. It's actually spaced out perfectly for you to place those little sheets of paper on it. So what I'm doing is I'm laminating them and putting dry erase markers.
No, that's
so
smart.
that there's less waste and things like that. But the papers, for as much as they can become, they were thoughtfully sized for the board that they created. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, other than the fact I already did. But I will provide the opposing opinion that it is a fun, interesting, interpersonal approach to a party game.
Yeah, and see, it's for me, a party game should not be that complicated. Seriously, we spent more time talking about how to play the game, and then when we actually played the game, it was like quick. And I actually found it was like one of those things where you were like purposely trying to not make your drawings obvious, and then it ended up still being obvious, even though they were randomly different. And it was just like, okay. It was like, you know that moment where everyone just goes, okay, I don't get it? It was like that. Everyone looked at each other like, I don't get it. It just didn't click. It was like, you mentioned Just One. I love Just One. Love that game. If you did that with drawing, it could still work. But this was not that. This was like, see, and it just did not click. And it would literally got to the point, I'm like, okay, is it over? I literally felt I was supposed to be having fun. And then it was like, surprise, you're getting a root canal. It just,
Mandy, do you think that there's the potential that you would have enjoyed it more if, say, I had taught it to you, as opposed to having some errors or stress from reading the rule book?
I gotta be honest with you, I don't think I would have. I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more, but I still don't think it's a game that I would keep and play again. And I play with people that are generally, you don't understand, they will play anything I throw at them. Doesn't matter if it's a type of game, like they're like, no, we'll play it. And we've had some games they really enjoy. That's not in the realm of their, types of games they normally play or like. And this one was one that everybody literally was like, please don't bring this again.
Wow.
Yeah, it did. It was really bad. And this game relies heavily on that dynamic with everybody kind of enjoying the game. And we spent more time arguing about the rules.
That is absolutely true. It is a game where everybody's got to be on the same page.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I don't like being mean. And I hope I wasn't too harsh. But I'm sure this game, as we've discovered, found a place that people enjoy it. Not with my group, unfortunately.
Y'all are going to have to let us know what you think, how I am correct and Mandy is incorrect.
You know I'm right, please.
And how my discussion of this is far more compelling than Mandy's
we'll
angle.
See. We'll see.
Sometimes they throw the show notes up on the Board Game Geek Guild and start a little thread. So feel free to drop your comments in there on what you think of subtext. And it's not a popularity contest, Mandy.
What?
It's
no,
not
of course
a poll or a vote on whether you're wrong or I'm right. It's
wink, wink.
But it would be fun to see where other people land on this, because Wolfgang Warsch is obviously a very accomplished designer. In the relatively short time he's been kind of a name designer in the industry. And it's nice to see that there's differing opinions, because he can't just save the world by curing cancer. He has to design games. For those of you who don't know, Wolfgang Warsch is like a cancer researcher. It's amazing.
Which is fantastic. So you know what? I'll give him props. The fact that he was able to kind of do something outside of the realm. You're right, of doing something else that's not the usual. And I mean, you gotta give props and respect to that. Absolutely. It's just one of those things that just didn't work for me. I'm sorry.
All right. We ran a little bit long on some of the earlier elements of this show, and that happens. No big deal. We ran through some Q&A recently, and Mandy's been at conventions and all this other stuff. So I'll tell you what, we'll drop us your questions in email for a Q&A session coming up in a future episode. You can email me. I am Suzanne at dicetower.com.
And you can message me at Mandy. That's Mandy with an I at dicetower.com.
And really, folks, as always, thank you so much for listening and joining us and picking sides, like the correct side of the argument on subtext, my side. We appreciate you and value you. Headed into convention season is always interesting because it's a real opportunity for us to meet some of you all out there and get to talk to you about the games that you like. And it's so rewarding and it's so fabulous and fun. And we always want you to know that we appreciate you and thank you. Next episode, episode 617, Tom and Eric will be talking about their favorite 7-player games.
Oh my goodness.
I wonder if both of them are going to put subtext on their list, Mandy.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we'll see. That actually will be very entertaining.
So don't forget to tune in then. And until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vazel Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvazel.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandy, and Eric with assistance from Roy Cannaday and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
All right, it's that time again. 2 truths and a lie. So I'll start by revealing what the lie was from last week. So let's start with the options.
Well, it wasn't last week. It's actually been a while since we did these because Tom and Eric had a couple episodes, right. And then you had the live show. So it's been a while. So not last week.
Okay, so scratch that. The past 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's more accurate. Okay, so the first one, I have been a die for Halloween. I have been Miss Argentina from Beetlejuice for Halloween, and I've been Princess Leia for Halloween. If you chose Princess Leia as the lie, that would be correct. It was on the list at one point, but then I instead decided to do Xena Warrior Princess.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah. Woo! Love it.
So maybe in a future Halloween setting, we will do Princess Leia. So there you go. If you guessed that, you got it. You got it correct. So, all right, Suzanne, what about you?
I've been a flower, I've been a ram, and I've been a bee. And the lie is that I've been a flower. When I was young, I actually did a lot of tap and ballet. And the various costumes that you have to wear. I've been a toy soldier. I've been all these silly little things. But I'd never been a flower. Alas.
Which is surprising, because I feel flower's like a common one. I mean, right? I also used to do dance, and I feel like everyone's been a flower at some point.
Not I, said the Suze.
Oh. All right, well, there you go. It was a tricky one. All right, so new this week, I decided to take more of a electronics approach to it. Yeah, I know, it might be a little boring. Don't at me, sorry. It is what it is, okay? I'll have better ones next time, but
you're fine.
Who knows? Maybe I'll trip you up. So, here we go. I own 3 video cameras. I own 3 microphones. I own 4 webcams. What?
Dang, woman.
So, I know, it's a lot of stuff.
I went the consumer ownership way too, but slightly different direction. Intrepid Dice Tower fans may be able to solve this one. I own a sloth onesie. I own a narwhal onesie. And I own a Totoro onesie.
Yours is so much cuter than mine. So there you have it. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you to our sponsors at Renegade Games Studios. Check out Terror Below and all the wonderful Renegade games at renegadegames.com.